A night in November 2016, a storm unlike any other is raging. The skies are bruised black, rain and hail are pummeling the ground, and the city's a symphony of sirens. But amidst the chaos, there's a professor sitting in his backyard, a strange calm on his face. Why? Because he saw it coming. He tried to warn everyone, but his warnings fell on deaf ears, and now, people are dying, in the exact way he knew they would. Sometimes, the most terrifying stories are the ones ripped from the headlines, the ones that make you question everything you think you know about the world around you. If you're drawn to the shadows, the unexplained, the reality of true crime and the unnerving twists of mystery, you've come to the right place. We post new stories every Tuesday and Thursday, so hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We've got a whole library of stories that'll keep you up at night, and we're just getting started. Okay, let's get into it. It's 5:30 p.m., November 21st, 2016. In Melbourne, Australia, a young mother named Jodie Santoro, just 21 years old, is jolted awake by her 4-month-old son's cries. This isn't a normal wake-up call. A monstrous storm is howling outside, rain, hail, the wind rattling her windows like they're about to shatter. She reaches for her phone, checks the time, realizes she's overslept. It's been a hot day, she's exhausted from the heat and motherhood, so she figures, okay, understandable. But as her son's cries intensify, a wave of dizziness washes over her as she tries to get out of bed. Her chest tightens, she can barely breathe. Now, Jodie has a history of asthma, she knows this feeling. This is an asthma attack, she needs her inhaler. She grabs it, takes a puff, expecting that familiar whoosh of relief, but it doesn't come. She tries again, harder, deeper. Nothing. Panic begins to claw its way into her chest. Her son's still crying, she's struggling to breathe and she knows she needs her nebulizer, the big gun for asthma, but setting it up now, shaking, frantic as she is, feels like a losing battle. Suddenly, her fiancé rushes in, drawn by the baby's cries. But the second he sees Jodie, his attention snaps to her. He sees the struggle in her face, he knows what an asthma attack looks like. Without a word. He's a whirlwind. He grabs the nebulizer, sets it up, fits the mask over her face. Jodie inhales deeply, hoping this will finally stop the attack, but no, it doesn't work. Each breath feels like her lungs are shrinking, not expanding. Call an ambulance, she gasps, her voice barely a whisper. Her fiancé, now gripped by fear, grabs the phone. He's trying to explain, to relay the chaos in their bedroom, but outside, the storm is growing ever more violent. Hail is beating against the house, windows are trembling. The next few minutes are torture for Jodie. She's lying on the bed, each breath shallower than the last, the world beginning to blur at the edges. Finally, paramedics burst through the door. Jodie can see their faces, but it's all a blur, voices echoing. "I'm going to die," she manages, her words choked. They lift her onto a gurney, they rush her out the door toward the ambulance and then, everything goes black. The paramedics work to keep her alive, jamming oxygen into her lungs, as her fiancé follows, white-knuckled, praying she'll make it. They arrive at the hospital, an absolute madhouse. Paramedics wheel her through the doors, shouting out her vitals. Nurses, doctors swarm around her, inserting fours, hooking up monitors, desperately intubating her, trying to get air into her lungs. And for a moment, it seems to work. Jodie's condition stabilizes. But just as it seems like she is out of the woods, the medical team rushes out of the room, leaving her there. Why the sudden exit? Because the emergency room is overflowing. People are slumped against walls, screaming for help. Ambulances are lined up for blocks, all with patients having the same symptoms as Jodie, but most have never had asthma attacks in their lives before. Doctors and nurses are working frantically, but it seems to be a losing battle. Jodie, now stabilized, gets moved to the ICU just to free up space. Her fiancé sits there, gripping her hand, utterly lost and terrified at what's happening around them. What on earth is going on? What is making people lose their ability to breathe? It turns out, someone new. A university researcher, a man named Philip Taylor, had actually predicted this very thing just the day before. He was an expert in atmospheric allergens, a field so niche, so obscure that almost no one had even heard of it. He was home, analyzing data, when a pattern so precise, so alarming appeared on his screens, it froze him solid. He knew what this meant. He tried to send out a warning online, but it just didn't reach enough people. And now, he sits in his backyard, the sky an ominous black, the sirens wailing around him. He watches the storm unfold, he knows his predictions were right. And that was a deadly truth. It was a rare phenomenon known as thunderstorm asthma. And you'll never guess why people were struggling so much. That pollen that the heat had brought to the area was blown apart by the storm into these microscopic fragments and inhaled deep into people's lungs and triggering those asthma attacks. The microscopic particles bypassed the body's normal defenses, and that's what caused all these problems. For Jody and so many others, it was a life-threatening night. Jody spent days in the ICU, battling to recover. She was lucky she survived. But in the days that followed, she learned the scale of the disaster. Almost 10,000 people had flooded hospitals. And of those 10,000, 10 people actually died. Healthy people who had never had an asthma attack in their lives. Despite surviving, Jody is forever marked by that night. She knows how fragile life can be, how quickly the world can change. And it begs the question, are we really as safe as we think we are? Remember that, my friends, and I'll see you back here on Tuesday and Thursday with another one of these unforgettable stories. Until then, stay vigilant, stay curious, and stay safe.